Hey everybody, Johnny Cage here, welcoming you back to another game review. This time we're taking a look at New Ghostbusters 2, developed and published by HAL Laboratory, released December 26, 1990 for the Famicom. In this action game based on the hit 1989 film, you'll choose to take control of one of the four Ghostbusters, each with their own distinct look to help them stand apart from one another. You even have Rick Moranis' character Lewis as a playable character, which is a nice touch. Ultimately, it won't matter who you choose, as they all play the same, so just go ahead and pick your favorite. And once your selection has been made, you'll be prompted with choosing a second character to partner up with, cause busting is always more fun when you do it with a partner after all. Our story follows pretty closely to the movie, spanning 5 different stages that bear some familiarity to locations that you might have seen in the film, with the gameplay consisting of your main character stunning ghostly baddies with your proton beam, and your fellow Ghostbusters scooping them up with the trap. Most of the time you'll be navigating rooms, sucking up all the ghosts that spawn about before getting an arrow which will direct you to the next part of the level. The game also allows you to zap ghouls through walls, which helps to speed things up a bit. And a huge kudos to the programmer that worked on your helper's AI, because man, it is way ahead of its time in this game. Perhaps even better than some current-gen artificial intelligence. There is the occasional issue where the computer won't be able to get the trap exactly where you need it to be, but largely they can navigate the screen expertly and find a place where they can take the entity down. The game is also quite lenient when it comes to your beam. It only extends a short distance when you initially fire it, but after you've locked onto a fiend, you can move around a good bit to dodge other enemies or attacks if need be, though the beam will only stay locked on for a few seconds, so a quick capture is best. Be careful not to get too close to those specters though, as a single hit will take you out, using up one of your 3 lives. And should you run out, you'll have to start burning through the 3 continues that you have as well. At least the game is nice enough to start you pretty close to where you left off, and you can pick up extra lives at certain point intervals. This one isn't all that tough to beat at least, but if you do want to make it through to the end, it is best to hold back from chasing ghosts down and just let them come to you as best you can. Some of the enemies won't go quietly though, especially those Cyclops with their ranged ball and chain weapons, and these samurai which appear suddenly for a quick strike before disappearing as quickly as they came. As it often goes with retro games, there isn't too much to say about the first couple of stages. You do get a good fight with the Scoleri brothers as the boss of the first level, and we get to take a short ride on the ghost train during the second one. The third level is where the game really starts to challenge you a bit, more so than anything in just how long it is. The first time I went through here, I was starting to think that there might be a trick to completing the stage, as it was quite a bit longer than the previous ones. At least you don't have to deal with a boss here. Instead we get a short cutscene of the nefarious Janos kidnapping poor baby Oscar. The River of Slime is up next, and is a real step up from what we have seen so far. This is mostly due to the river's current slowing us down, and features more ghouls with ranged attacks, ending with a slime boss monster that you can just beam to death, only having to actually capture the last remaining one. The final stage has a lot in common with the third one, not super hard, but a long one for sure, and the boss here, which appears to be a Funko Pop of Janos, is easily the most difficult of the game, requiring you to stunlock one of the 3 versions of himself, while the other 2 will try to hit you with some pink goo. And on top of that, you'll need to repeat this process 10 times before you can move on to the final boss, Vigo the Carpathian. This fight is actually pretty simple. You're just going to want to hit him with your beam and back up to avoid his rotating orbs, move left and right to further dodge the bigger shots he will fire, and after about a minute or so you will have knocked him back into his painting and saved the day once again. The controls here could not be simpler, with B firing your proton beam and A launching the trap. Pressing start will bring up a screen showing the number of lives you have left as well as score info, but that is it. Any issues I had with this game in general are going to be pretty nitpicky, though if I could make one change, it would be to allow your character to move diagonally. That might make the game a little too easy, but I also feel like it would have helped me to avoid some cheap deaths as well. The graphics are pretty much top tier for a late Famicom title. I could have used with a little bit more variety of color, but it certainly does the job. And you gotta love that chibi look of the Ghostbusters, adding some Japanese flair to their sprites. Some of the baddies even look like ghosts that would have appeared in the real Ghostbusters cartoon. Not sure that the designers would have drawn inspiration from an American show, but it wouldn't surprise me either. The soundtrack here is, well, the soundtrack to the actual movie for the most part, featuring 4 tracks that were on the film's OST in all their 8-bit glory, including a very well done rendition of the Ghostbusters theme song, all helping to make the audio a perfect fit for the game. These days you can pick up a card of New Ghostbusters 2 on the Famicom for about $75 American on eBay, though the prices fluctuate quite a bit. This was also released in PAL regions in 1991, though that version of the game seems to be quite hard to come by, with the only listing that I could find for it costing around $140. If you weren't familiar with this title prior, you've probably been wondering why the hell didn't I have this Ghostbusters game growing up? It looks awesome. And yeah, it is pretty great. But unfortunately, due to Activision holding the video game license for Ghostbusters in North America, we got stuck with, well, you know. As I said before, any nitpicks that I have with this game are going to be pretty minor. I talked about the movement already, but I also couldn't help but think how cool it would have been to make this 2 players with a player controlling each Ghostbuster. Or better yet, having each person control 2 characters, though that might have pushed the cartridge to its limits, if it were even possible. I also would have liked to have some more varied gameplay. Stunning a ghost with a beam and then hitting him with the trap right after is pretty satisfying, but it does get a little samey after a few levels. It would have been nice if they had at least one other method of attacking. Perhaps they could have included that slime gun from the film, which you would need to use on certain fiends in order to take them down. I'm going to go ahead and give New Ghostbusters 2 9 Big Twinkies out of 10. This is the Ghostbusters game that we had all been hoping to play back in the day, and it turns out you just needed to call Satoru Iwata in order to make that dream come to fruition. It isn't the easiest game to track down, but if you have the means of trying this one out, I highly recommend it, and it is definitely a must-play for any fan of the Ghostbusters films. Thank you everyone for watching, and if you'd like to stay posted on new game reviews as I upload them, please click the subscribe button, as well as checking out the link in the description below for my Twitch channel, where I stream most days. I'll talk to you all later on.